So today I want to share with you guys a bit of insight into our business, which it often comes up as a point of note whenever we first describe our business to people, and what's different about our special Snowflake business. Um, or at least our sales process is different because we sell tutoring to the parent, but the student is the one who has to do it. So we need buy-in from two different stakeholders essentially. And so in our process, the easiest way to do this is to have a sales call with both of them present, and we sell them both at the same time. Because it's really interesting. The motivation that the parents have, they are similar to what the child has, but not necessarily exactly the same. And so you have to address different concerns at different points when making the sale. And most people will just win the parent because they're the ones in charge, right? Because that's how it was for us when we were children. Yes. Today, guess who's in charge? The kids. It's very, very rare we come across a parent who is as my parents were, as your parents probably were, where they're like, this is what's happening, you turn up and do it, or else I'm getting the spoon out. The wooden spoon is a joke in my family. And so, Mum, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, please don't beat me. Uh, but we often thought this is quite a unique scenario, but it's really not. It's quite similar to a principal-agent problem, where the most classic example of this, a principal, such as the shareholders of a company, hire an agent, CEO, to act in the interest of the principal. And the difficulty comes and arises when their intentions, when their outlines, when their expectations aren't aligned, because both parties have their own self-interest in mind. And so we have this interesting thing in a sales call specifically for us now, again, where we first of all go through exactly what are the pains and motivations and are they aligned on both sides. Because we can't just have the conversation with the parent because they don't know where the kid is struggling, right? They're not the child. And all they know is they are struggling, and that's the extent. Or they're not achieving what they could. So then we have this really interesting, we collect in our appointment setting call, we collect the motivation from the parent, and then we collect again the motivation from the student during the call, and very rarely the same thing. They have similar themes. But throughout it, once we convince the child and they're like, yeah, this actually is the right thing for me, I am committed, I am going to do it, we often then suggest a roadmap of saying, this is the best way for you to get to your goal, given where you are right now. And say, classic example, if that's going to be 2 sessions a week. Now, are you willing to put in that time? The kid almost always goes, do you know what? Yes, I am. That is worth it rather than a whole extra year. Great. At this point, the principal, the parent, then tries to fight us on the sale. Really interesting. It happens so often. When they're there like, no, we should probably just start with 1. So then we have to go back with the totally understand why that is your concern, but if you want to get to the goal, this is what's required. And then the kid's like, no, I'm ready to put in that effort, I'm ready, that's what I want to do. And then the parent usually puts their foot down quite hard. And I think a lot of the time our sales guys come down to, they think it's the pricing objection. And it often really is not. I believe the biggest reason behind this is because they know their child. And they don't want to deal with the emotional fallout of they start something that they've bitten off more than they can chew, but they've now paid for it, and then they now have to force them to turn up. Which is really funny because that's not the most common outcome. The most common outcome in our scenario is that the parents are shocked that they've never had to remind them because we treat them like adults and we send them their own call invitation links, and the parent has literally no input other than we update them every 6 weeks to say this is how they got on. But yeah, it's just really interesting to know that there are other businesses with similar problems. So you also have examples of you might have a company that sells stuff to owners of buildings, but actually the person implementing it might be the person who manages the building. And they might not want to do all the extra work that's going to come along with this for no benefit, which is probably more money for the person who is paying for it, but not the person who has to carry it out. And so it's just a unique business difficulty. And so luckily we don't have a constraint here, I believe. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think our treatment of our process of this principal agent type problem that our special Snowflake business has, we're dealing with it quite well. It doesn't seem to have crazy bad conversion numbers, like I have heard for some other ones. There you go. Just thought that might be interesting if you'd ever had a thought about other types of businesses and what their sales processes might look like and how they might be different in that regard. Cool. That's it. Not a very helpful one today, but interesting nonetheless. Catch you later. Bye.